The biggest knock on Mirage since day one has been his abilities are dependent on his opponent's skill and not his own. That his game is effective while things are fresh, but over time, veterans can see through the Mirage.
Oh, brother, this guy.
And with these new buffs to Mirage in Season 20, many believe Mirage is truly a force. But what's the difference from his abilities before that made him predictable and now that make him unstoppable? And how long until players begin to figure him out? When Mirage was first released, his abilities were a little different. His passive was the same as today. When knocked, you go invisible for 3 seconds, which comes in handy to be honest, but having a passive that only works when you get knocked isn't ideal. His tactical was semi-reliable at best. It couldn't follow your movements and broke its back whenever it stepped on a crack, and quite literally was crashing the game. And his ultimate allowed him to drop 8 to 10 decoys that stood in place while the real Mirage went invisible for 5 seconds, and got a slight speed boost, about 20 to 30%. When activated, he couldn't uncloak until Season 2, which gave him more outplay options. And in the first month of Apex's release, there were tier lists and power rankings to determine who were the best among the 8 legends, many of which had Mirage in their top 5. Now, to be fair, it was only 8 legends, so technically it was being really ranked low, but especially when you look into the context some more. When Apex was first released, Mirage's invisibility wasn't truly invisible. It was more opaque, giving a faint outline for enemies with a keen eye. So when knocked, it wasn't hard to spot him, making his passive essentially useless, and this applied to his ultimate too. And with players knowing that none of his ult clones were real, it made it very predictable knowing that Mirage was running away, up until Season 2, because Mirage couldn't cancel out of his ultimate. So when deploying your ultimate, not only were enemies more likely to see you, but you couldn't do anything about it. And the true reason why he wasn't at the bottom and was placed higher over characters like Gibraltar, Caustic, and Pathfinder was because of his hitbox. In the early days of Apex, the only thing you needed to be an overpowered legend was have a small hitbox and an ability that gave you mobility. So Mirage being so high up was a product of his size compared to others behind him, and not his actual utility. Cause once those below him started getting buffs, fixes, and acclimated into meta, in just a few short months, Mirage was considered the worst legend in the game. In Season 1, and Season 2, 3, and 4. Cause Mirage wouldn't receive a buff until Season 5. And if you don't count the buff of being able to cancel your ultimate earlier, then until Season 5, Mirage hadn't got a single buff since the game was released. Until Season 5 when Respawn decided it was time Mirage got a rework. The consensus for Mirage and the basis for the rework was that as the game progressed and players got better, bamboozles would occur less. So Respawn decided to make his kit more confusing and his abilities more reliable. His tactical got an upgrade, allowing the player the option to gain control of his decoys, allowing for them to mimic his movements. Same with his ultimate, with the biggest change being Mirage's invisibility time was changed from 5 seconds to 1. They also gave him the ability to revive his teammates while invisible. This actually was the first ever rework. The rework made Mirage not only one of the strongest one-on-one legends in the game right after Gibby, but also a team player. Being able to revive your teammates whilst in plain sight made him one of the best revive legends in the game. Although some did miss the invisibility, this was a step in the right direction, because later that year he would get an added buff to sell his decoys by giving them 45 HP and the addition of decoy footsteps. A mid-season ranking saw Mirage as a great B tier legend, but still couldn't compete at the highest level. So what more could be done? Did you know Mirage is the only legend in the game to never receive a nerf? I'm serious. Sure, he's had incidental nerfs like in Season 16, they removed the ability for Mirage to get bamboozles from Watson and Caustic traps, and Gibby and Bang ults. But that same patch, they also gave him his invisibility back when he revives a teammate. Another great buff that in some cases could be even more fruitful than a lifeline or Gibby res, with its clear outplay potential. And with that season, Mirage was once again considered a great legend. But 1 season ago, people were calling him trash. And the public consensus was that Revenant was the worst legend in the game. But fast forward to Season 18, and they've caught up with him. So don't be fooled this season. Mirage may look like a bona fide stud with constant decoys, but he still can't offer enough when it comes to the other aspects of the game. Rotations, scanning, defending. He just doubled down as a crutch for offensively stunted players that want to feel useful with his supportive abilities. And that's the fundamental truth about Mirage. His kit isn't made for the comp scene with thousands of dollars on the line. Neither is it made for ranked, as you can just do the same with other legends more effectively and with less headache. Even in pubs, he's not an effective pub stomper. Pub? Is it pump? He's an effective pump. Fuck. With his lack of speed and overall movement, I know it's surprising to hear from a fellow Mirage, but it's true. And if you still doubt, Mirage isn't even supposed to be in the Apex games. He got lucky meeting Wraith and Pathfinder, being able to carry him to a win and qualify for the Apex games. So every time you pick him, you're basically telling your team, carry me to a win. The devs added Mirage, a ploy, a decoy, and if you didn't know, I guess you got bamboozled. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you in another one. Be mighty.